Dwellings, and again, for the fifth time in the sales process, I'm joined with Mr. Rick Kallmeyer. We're going to talk all about appointment 3. We're going to talk about the important, basically closing this deal, wrapping it up. If they've made it here, you're about to close on them, folks. Just don't shoot yourself in the foot, like Rick was saying in the last episode. Basically, it's probably like a lot of the closing or paperwork appointments that you've done in the past, or presentation appointments that you've done in the past. But it's got a little nuance to it that I really like that a lot of advisors are doing these days. And honestly, folks, if you haven't updated your sales strategy in years, even if you're a huge closer, it's nice. Sales is always evolving. I was just talking with Will, our videographer here, about this the other day. It's always evolving sales. It's one of those things, no different than technology. It's always growing. It's always getting a new pitch to it or a new angle to it. So if you haven't analyzed your sales or closing strategy in a while, it might be time for you to take a look at some of the things that are going out there, because what I've seen on the road over the last couple of years of those doing really well in closing, they've done something very similar to this, if not exactly the same. So let's recap real quick. Yeah. First appointment, we did a general benefits overview with the client, right? We built some rapport. We knew what their initial question was. Remember, we got this appointment off the internet, basically through FEBA. FEBA referred this person to me because I'm a FRC, Federal Retirement Consultant. I did a benefit overview, so I talked about all the benefits. And then finally, we pitched the opportunity to do a benefit analysis and got the yes for them and did a quick fact find, just a quick fact find. Finally, in the second appointment, by this time, I've created a quick benefit analysis for them. I built the report back up. I talked to them about the benefit analysis again, reminded them about it. And I used the benefit analysis, the quick report as we called it, to kind of gloss over some of the issues that I saw. And I bounced the ideas or the issues off the client throughout the covering of the report, to see if they had any anecdotes to the issues. Right?
To cover their kind of benefits, as well as to ask more questions, get more information. Again, as you said, getting those deep cuts.
Getting the deep cuts.
And kind of reposition the sale. You kind of do the same thing through the first appointment, the second appointment leading to the third, of finding out what their needs are, finding out what the pains are, finding out what they're looking for financially, what they need from you. And you're just kind of like sprinkling those things in through this whole process to wrap it back up to where we're going to get to today.
And you're doing that fact finding throughout. So any places that you don't like the anecdote they have, or if you do like the anecdote they have, asking questions that allow you to get the deep cuts, like Rick is talking about, the deep cuts of their fact find, like of their personal situation. That means uncovering past 401ks, other annuities, financial planners, maybe pensions or debts and obligations, things like that. You want to uncover all of those things in the second appointment. And then what did you do with that information? You started to give them a 101 lesson in financial planning about the issues that you saw that were going to need to be addressed in before they retire. Right? And then you ask them finally if they wanted you to put a plan together to help them, and because you had helped so many other federal employees in the past, and they said yes. And so now you're in appointment 3, ready to go. And again, pre-appointment prep. And this pre-appointment prep is pretty much the same as the others. But now you've got to get all this paperwork together. So you've gotten with Rick and his team, and they've run you illustrations and reports, and they're helping you to understand the products that you might suggest or the strategy you might suggest. Maybe it's a bucket plan strategy. Maybe it's a Roth conversion. Maybe it's a life insurance sale. Whatever it is, you've put together a really, really good report for them, or presentation for them on what you're going to suggest. And so finally now you're going to approach them with a completed benefit analysis,
full track report
with all of their other assets and your solutions included in it. Right? So that means if you're suggesting a TSP transfer, you've done the TSP transfer. You've taken the TSP monies out of the TSP column, and you have nothing remaining in it, and you've put it into the annuity illustration, and you've created that income need. And you've maybe included their Social Security for the first time now in this report.
You got the rest of the information together. It's all in there. So now you can kind of see if there's a shortfall, if they've got an overage of funds, maybe a tax burden coming out later. You've got more of the pieces put together here to, if you're going to be rolling that TSP, to look at and see exactly what it's doing. We've got it on paper. We've got the ideas together.
So you're going to build that rapport back, right in the beginning. And for me, what I've seen out there, the best advisors identify the personality type. They know who they are dealing with. If they have an engineer sitting at the table with them, somebody super technical and looking for analysis, they're going to use the benefit analysis again. But for the majority of folks out there, the lay people out there that just, they're starting to believe us that we're the experts in the room because of the financial planning lessons we gave them in last appointment. We're not going to, this super hyper focused benefit analysis is not what I'm going to use to sell them today. I'm going to go with like a napkin, a whiteboard. If I'm virtual, I'm going to use like some sort of drawing mechanism for the drawing. But I'm going to draw out the plans. Do you remember this when we were talking about your pension? Let me write pension down. And you're going to write pension on the screen. And basically, you're going to explain to them, here's where the issue is. You're going to remind them of the pains again. And remember, I told you there's some solutions that other federal employees had done. Well, here's what we've done. And here's what that caveat I was talking about. When they present the best closers out there, when they present these days the solution for the pain, it's not a particular product. It's like a couple of options. They give the client an option of milk or water at the table. And that goes for anything they're trying to sell them, whether it's, their accumulation vehicle. Do we want to be very risky with it? Do we want to be really conservative? Do we want to be somewhere in the middle? They're letting the client pick between the three things that they're offering. So here are when we talked about your TSP transfers, here are the couple options that I had for the guaranteed income side of things. This income product offers a lot of this, and this income product offers a lot of that. Which of these do you value more? I think we value the death benefit. Or maybe they defer it to you and say, wow, I think they're both good. We'll go with your best judgment. Okay, fine. They're picking, hand selecting their own retirement plan that you're going to orchestrate. And so it feels like they've made the decision, and that seems to be what the buyers want these days. They want to make the decision.
That's been an old statement. Respectively for my age, but nobody wants to be sold something. They always want to buy something.
Yes.
So if you give them a couple options, I know your style, since I've known you, has always been the milk or honey. You give them two options, it's either or. I've always been more of the kind of like the Goldilocks strategy of too hot, too cold, just right. So, you give them like an income rider focus, you give them a mixed hybrid, and then you give them an accumulation. Right. And, so that's been more style. And everybody's got their own style, but you really, especially today.
And you're kind of gold starring the one that you are saying is the best option for them. Because you want to show some expertise in that instance too. Like if you're going to give a Goldilocks scenario, or if you're going to give them a milk or water or honey scenario, you want to make sure that you're giving them also what you're recommending. Like I would recommend this, but if you do decide that you value more this scenario, we can certainly orchestrate that as well, right? And then you move on to the next scenario, whether it's life insurance or whatever. You're moving down the benefit analysis, and you're making things options in the plan that you might not make any commission on. You might not make any money on, like Social Security deferment. Like, so if we did this, we could do this and, blah, blah, blah. Like we could take it at this day. Did you want to work this way or this way? Like do you want to work an extra year? Or do you want to take the 25% or the 50%? You're making them take options everywhere. And it kind of, for lack of a better word, it disguises what the real sale is for you, the financial planner, which might be this annuity or this life insurance policy or this asset under management strategy. Fine.
So I've always loved taxes as that kind of section of it, because everybody knows that most people at least believe you don't make money off of somebody taking care of your taxes. Obviously you pay them to do your taxes and stuff, but if you sit down with me and you talk about the tax advantages of these things, nobody thinks about okay, he's not going to get a commission for me telling me that hey, look, there's a break even on Social Security where if you pass it, now you get penalized for it. He's just giving me tax advice. Unless you're sitting down with a CPA who's charging you for that tax advice, there's no connection there. And it's always just been a good kind of cover to say hey, look, I'm doing a full planning for you, and this is going to affect your annuity. This is going to affect your FERS and your Social Security, even though I'm just going for the TSP to move that over.
I've seen folks that even use TSP, giving TSP management advice. Or if they can, they're AUM guys, right? Giving advice on funds to pick, even though they weren't even planning a TSP transfer. It was like a FEGLI sale that they were going after. But they were giving advice on the TSP fund option, well, look, you're all in the G fund, and while that's really great and safe and sound, you're too young for that. Yeah. And you really should be choosing a C or an F fund. Which would you like to go after, right?
You're providing value.
I think I want to go for the C fund. Okay, fantastic. And what that feels like is you're giving advice to something that they know you're not going to make a commission on, right? You're just giving advice and you're helping them design a plan, right? And by this point, if you've helped them make decisions on 5-6 different things, that'd be really the goal, is to help them navigate 5-6 different decisions. They're not going to identify the one decision that made you money.
It's unwarranted value, right? You go to the mechanics and whatever you're going to get your tires changed or something, like, hey, look, your oil was low, so I topped it off real quick for you. Yeah, it's big, man. You didn't have to do that.
And this sounds almost malicious too, but it's not. This is what happens from genuinely helping the person. Just make decisions no matter what. You're going to make a commission or not. That's really what this is about, is helping them design a plan that'll help them accomplish their retirement goals, right? And being that you're a financial planner, of course, there's some opportunities where you can help them orchestrate these things and you'll make a commission or a fee or something like that on top of it. Fine, all well and good. But essentially, once you've presented this solution and you've allowed them to design their own retirement plan, you're then going to propose, say, look, then let's get the stuff started right now. I go assume close. I see the majority of folks go assume close. All right, well, then let's get this all paperwork going. So here's the documents for this. Here's the documents for that FEGLI stuff. Here's the documents for your pension stuff. Here's the purple book for your retirement paperwork, blah, blah, blah. You're going to want to have those. Like, go the extra mile. And even if they're not retiring for 5 years, walk them through, like, here's how this retirement's going to be. And I'm going to be here for you doing this, right? You're going to lay the groundwork that you are here to help them for the long term. You're not going anywhere, right? This is a permanent plan designed to navigate the bumps in the roads and everything like that. And then finally coming in afterwards with, like you were telling me before we got on, just finalizing paperwork and then doing onboarding. What was that you were telling me about the onboarding thing before we came on here?
As far as like into the CRM systems and structure?
No, I just mean like you were saying something about the giving of like something substantial when they leave.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing, man. I think in anything, at least anything of quality, like when you pay a lot of money for something, you feel like you put a lot of effort or something, or somebody did into you, like you don't walk out empty-handed.
Right.
A golf course, you get a membership, you're walking out with a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep.
Even the carriers, you go to like, a good carrier, American Equity, Allianz, you're not walking out without at least like a North Face jacket or things like that. And like that's just become like some kind of a symbol, whether we care about it or not, whether you give a packet to a client, whether they actually go home and sit down and look at it all, when most people aren't going to do, they still feel like they're walking out with something. And I think that's a huge part of
local
the business.
Coupons, a lot of people miss. Or, like not rebating. Obviously, we don't want to get into the rebating world, but a packet that says you joined this exclusive club today. Welcome to it. Right? This grandiose gesture, whether it's cookies and coffee while they're filling out the paperwork, of course, like instantly the way they were treated changed.
It's like I'm already getting
part of the family.
That makes sense. Like once you get to that step, like I've made the decision, yes, and I'm already getting things for that. I'm always getting positive rewards for it already.
Yes. That's so right. The second they say yes, you're now part of the family. Yeah. Here's the cookies, here's the coffee, here's the, Mr. and Mrs. blah, blah, can't wait to, I want to make sure that you get involved in our Christmas extravaganza.
Well, we do this huge thing. Yeah, we do a big, every year for Christmas, we do it down at the restaurant. We're at the restaurant, we have 700, 500 of our clients come out. We got to get you signed up for that so you can come to that.
Make sure you get a reserve seat right at the front, no problems, blah, blah, blah. You want to make sure you have some sort of grandiose gesture to give to them when they've said yes.
Because that stops the buyer's remorse. When you're just like, all right, you sign the paperwork and you're like, all right, have a good day, get on out. I got another meeting in a half hour.
Yeah.
You're going to walk out feeling like, man, did I really make a good decision there? You're like, is this the right thing? Versus again, so you walk out with 3 cookies in your hand, like, hey, look, we made a little extra, take a couple cookies with you. You're like, no, I shouldn't. I really, take the cookies. You feel a lot better about it. You feel like
when I worked in the golf business before this, a while back, when we'd have a new member join, we would have a packet or whatever, but we'd get them a license plate that had the golf course's logo on it. Yeah. They'd get a bag tag for their bag with their clubs on it. They'd get a storage locker with their name on it. And essentially when people said yes to signing the line, what we'd always have is a temp locker tag
Yeah.
already made, so that when they said yes, if they said yes to joining the club, we'd walk them through the tour of the new club that they just joined. They'd have their packet with them and walking around. And the last little detour of the club would be showing them the locker room and showing them their locker, all dressed up, ready to go. Even if they said no, whatever, we just cleaned it up and, we moved it away or whatever. But we had their one little locker. And so that's a metaphor or an analogy. Think of how you can give a tour of your family and lead them to this grandiose thing that just says you're part of this family now.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what that locker was. We'd show it and you'd see every single client light up the second they saw it. It's like, wow, I've joined this club, or I've joined that, or I made the right decision. Yeah. Right. And then I'll tell you folks, that's why these advisors at the top of the pile have the best experience through those 30-day look back period of, hey, look, I have buyer's remorse. I don't want to do this.
Yeah, because there's a difference. If they really feel like it's not the best financial move, even if they just want to look at the product, you gave them the either or option, give them milk or honey. They chose milk, and then later they're like, maybe wanted the honey. Yeah. They're going to call you and say, hey, look, is there a way we could change this and possibly do this, versus just calling the carrier and canceling it?
In the virtual.
That's the big difference, is what happens after they walk out of your door.
Right. And the virtual guys will do it through like a something tangible now. Like everything's been so virtual or whatever, and now they're sending something in the mail to these people with a packet or something like that, or they get an email, or they get some sort of coupon, or whatever it might be. Yeah. But it's the appointment 3 is basically rebuilding the rapport, going back over the issues, recapping the issues that you identified in the first part, and letting them have this benefit, this in-depth benefit analysis that projects your plan now, what you're suggesting they do with their retirement, and allowing them to. I wouldn't even use it, because it's just going to bring up questions, right? It's just going to bring up more questions on this, or it might even start to make a suggestion or like this open forum discussion where they can start to poke holes in whatever you're suggesting. You want to try and, for the majority, like an engineer, you're not going to be able to get around that. You're going to have to do that. Yeah. But for the majority of folks, it's napkin selling, it's whiteboard selling, it's conceptual sales, not numbers and analysis. You're going to get lost in the paralysis by analysis, right? Like you're just going to get stuck in the sales process. You want to start to go back to the issues and explain them on a whiteboard simply, and let them know that if they have issues or questions, like you can point to the analysis so they know you did your homework if you want to, but don't let them just pose. That's not what this appointment is about. It's not to sit here and go through a benefit analysis that we pretty much already covered in appointment 2.
You don't want to walk in, hand the analysis and be like, spend 15 minutes on that. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee, come back, and go ahead. You can have some questions.
Right. No, we're going to go through the issues ourselves. We're going to talk through the pains, and we are going to, I'm going to present my solutions as we're going through those pains again, right? What I've found. Oh yeah. It might even concur with what you were saying in appointment 2 at the end. It might already, it concurs with it. Oh, what we were talking about with that guaranteed income strategy. Well, that does seem to be the best solution for you. Now I have a couple of options for you, right? So as you're presenting the solutions, you're giving options as to what they have, so they can make their own choices within this solution, within the parameters. And then basically now they've got their personally customized financial plan. And you're going to ask them if they'd like to proceed moving forward. You assume close going for it. You start to get them say, all right, well then I've got all the paperwork ready to go. If you guys agree with it, then let's get this thing going. We understand the situations. They might have objections at that point. Fine, handle them. You understand how to do it. You go back through it, readdress the pains, readdress the solutions, and let them know that that's why we did this, and that should squash any objection that you run into by this point. You've established credibility. You are the resource for federal employee benefit information, and they can't find anything like this. They will not have had anything even remotely close to this in their federal employee life than what you've just done for them. Yeah. And so knowing that, go for the assume close in that situation and start going for the paperwork. And like Rick was saying, do a great job of offering them some grand gesture of onboarding. Welcome to the family, right? And that pretty much does it.
Should wrap it up.
Wrap them up. Some will, some won't, somewhat move on, right? Isn't that what it is? Yeah. So some will, some won't, some, we move on. Yep. And so that's the appointment process for the federal employee program. If you have questions or how it might apply to a virtual world, feel free to reach out to Rick and his team or myself or anybody here at the Megastar office. We're here to help you. And we'll see you next time right here on Coffee for Closers. Rick, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, man,
for doing this with us. A whole bunch of advice coming at you, and we're going to continue to build on these things, do some role-playing sessions so you can see how these things act, interviews with advisors on this. But thank you guys all for sticking with us through 5 appointments now, or 5 sessions, 3 appointment process. And we'll see you right here at the home office if you ever have questions. Thanks. See you again right here on Coffee for Closers.